Welcome to Vinn Group, or Vinn, as it is today. Vinn is a platform for startups. Today we are 14 companies within the group. My name is Marcus Hallberg, and I'm the CEO of one of the 14 companies called Vinn, and we are designers and developers of mechanical products. Today we're going to learn some more about AR and VR, mixed reality, and here we have a true specialist within the area, Filippos, Arvanitakis, and he's from OutHere in Gothenburg.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I'll talk all about that. Yeah. Does that work? Yeah.
Please.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. Hello? Hello. Right. Haven't started. Right, so I have a lot to say, so I'm going to start and try not to speak too fast. So like Marcus said, my name is Filippos Arvanitakis. I'm the creative director of a small company called OutHere, which I started about a year and a half ago together with my partners, Peter and Martin. And our idea is that, you know, we branch out and we kind of build a small agency that focuses primarily on VR and AR technology. And I imagine some of you know everything and some of you might not know. The simplest possible way to describe it is that VR is a three-dimensional computer model of physical reality, and AR would be an information model that is actually augmented onto physical reality, right? But a lot of people now are starting to call it mixed reality or XR and immersive experiences. And you know, there's like all these terms and all these things going on, and it's also funny because I've been kind of talking about it for like a few years now, and it was always kind of a struggle to find information. Okay, what do we have? What is going on? What is the latest thing? But now it was actually kind of impossible. There's so many things going on, and so many technologies are coming up, and you know. But at the end, it doesn't really matter because for all of that stuff, what you really want to know is your relationship and how much of the 3D data you have that you need to create those worlds and that information layer, and of course the message you want to give. So I'll play a few videos throughout the talk that I actually found.
Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Is what she said to me. It's a lot, whatever will be. The future's not ours to see.
Perfect.
What will be?
So, I mean, it's just a simple ad. It's a new ad for Samsung because they released this new phone that is. Actually, stop it there. The impressive thing about it is that most of the stuff that you saw there is it seems like a futuristic ad, what we envision as what the future is going to be like. But actually, all of that stuff exists. Maybe that stuff exists. We've all kind of been working with it. There is soap solar in the world with interactive screens, and its visual qualities and abilities are continuously increasing. Those phones are out. Games that you have, mobile phones that you're playing on augmented reality, like Pokemon Go, have actually already come and gone. I mean, this is not the future. This is kind of a present. And there was a message in the end that was extremely important, which is that you prepare for this now, then you're actually ready for the future. And this is one of the themes, perhaps, of today's conversation, of how do you actually set up in order to be ready for when all of these things become available. At the same time, you know, all of that around VR and AR, there's been so many projections and so many talks. I mean, I've been in the digital industry for nearly 20 years, and I've never seen this AR would surpass mobile phones and everything like that. It hasn't exactly happened like that. We're still kind of struggling, taking small steps to find the applications for it and uses for it. And, you know, we don't all have VR at our houses yet. But from working within that for the past nearly 4 or 5 years, I'm almost certain that this is actually coming and this is happening and these things are going to become a part of our lives. And you know, it's been a lot of hype and very, very little value for the first few years that this actually of this technology emerged, but at the same time, I think we've already crossed the line where now we're beginning to see value. Now companies are making money, we're creating new communication, we're building new services, we're kind of, bringing value into those whole thing, and slowly the hype is subsiding. I'll take a massive leap of thinking and faith forward and go like 70 years back and look at something that Borges wrote about, which was an idea that you can have a map that is an actual point-for-point representation of our actual world, of our physical reality. So we build a map over our existing world, right? And then at the same time, there was a guy, I can't see it here without the glasses, I forget his name, Ralph anyway. He was a cartographer, he's still alive. He wrote a book that is incredibly popular called Place and Placeness. And he talks about this idea of what actually constitutes a connection between us and a physical world. What is placeness? How can we have a sense of belonging in relation to a world that we're inside, right? And I mean, this kind of applies really well into the virtual world. So to explain those thoughts a little bit, I mean, if we see our world today, then we have gone so far past the point of being able to say, where am I, where's my friends, where's my family. These are functions that our phones and our computers have had for nearly a decade now. We're so accustomed to that idea that it's become a part of our everyday reality. Like, we all use it and we all know that it's there, and that is an inconceivable thought for 20 years ago. And at the same time, now we know we've progressed it a little bit more. Now we're asking, where is the nearest restaurant where I can have that? How can I find that place? Where is the best bus stop? What is the best bus to actually take me to where I want to go? But we've gone even past that. We're now in a place where we are building slowly information that can tell us very, very specific things about our world and about ourselves. Like, the question of how can I find a bench right now in a park that is facing the sun? I mean, this is a very specific question. But the thing is, I think right now there is people and new companies and, young kids and people at universities that are building connections over almost everything that we have. They're devising new technologies and they're trying to find ways to actually create this idea of a new map that exists over our existing one, or over our current one. And sometimes the vision goes a little bit too far out.
Sto libre di mi ira. Sto libre di mi tristezza.
Maybe you've all seen this video. It became viral like about a year ago. What is this whole thing going to look like? But it's not going to look like this. It's actually going to look more like this.
We know that your helmet is the single most important accessory for your riding experience. So we designed the best damn helmet in the market. The Jarvis helmet. The Jarvis helmet is made out of a lightweight aerodynamic polycarbonate carbon fiber shell with built-in wide-angle 2K front and rear cameras that offer 360-degree view and cutting-edge AR heads-up display technology. The Jarvis AR helmet connects to your smartphone via Bluetooth, allowing you to see incoming call notifications, road slip warning, weather notification, gas station icon, dangerous section warning, speed warning, traffic notification, and GPS navigation. I forgot to introduce our guest of honor. Hi, Alexa.
Hey, it's great to be here.
I mean, it's incredible that these things actually already exist. And what's important about this is that we are now using this technology not necessarily only to create new things, but to alter our existing reality. A helmet is a 50, 70-year-old device. But this is kind of, okay, we used new materials, we used new design languages for it, we made it safer and safer, but now we're adding this extra information, this extra ability onto the stuff that we already have. So, like I said before, we're not far away by a point where every lamppost and every device in your house, every piece of garment that you have, is actually going to be somehow electronically connected within this kind of idea, within something that a lot of people are calling a mirror world, which is again going back into Borges' idea about having, a new overlay of a reality, an information layer over basically everything, right? And in a way, you can argue this is actually the next great digital platform. And when I talk about digital platforms, I mean, I kind of was thinking a little bit, okay, let's argue that the World Wide Web is the first digital platform, because now we were able to just basically place all of the digital information that we have, all the information that we have in a digital format, and together with a set of algorithms, we were able to find it, to stream it, to connect it, to send it to each other, and basically all of a sudden humanity's knowledge was kind of available for us. So this was a massive, massive leap. I mean, we all kind of know that stuff. And then we move a little bit forward, and some people are arguing it's the mobile phone or it's this or that. It's actually not. It's social media was the next big technology platform, because this is what took us people, and it took all our behaviors and all our connections and all our relationships, and then it connected all of that. You can argue it didn't do it in a very good way because, of course, regulations and all of that stuff, but that's a whole other story. But together again with algorithms, we're able to connect in a way that has never been happened before. And I mean, I'm sure you've all been reading about this is affecting our relationships. And I was reading this thing that relates to Tinder about how for the first time in humanity, we are actually building relationships outside of a circle that we have connected with each other for like thousands of years. Since basically the beginning of human civilization, we have found love and relationships and families within some kind of a circle. Connections and people we knew and the universities we went to and the cities we moved to, but now we are actually connecting from completely external sources. We're bringing people together that would have otherwise have no way to connect with each other, right? And now we're going into the next one. Now we're going into the mirror world. And then the thing is, you still have the algorithms that are still spreading this information and connecting it to everything else, but now you have all things and all places that are coming into this equation. And we're still at the very beginning, we're still taking the first steps, but this is kind of the reality that we're building. A very small sample of that, it's a project that we're actually working with. We work with Bang & Olufsen, and we build an AR app for them called the AR Experience, which basically allows you to we have their full catalog of products, and then you're able to just basically visualize them, customize them, and then place them onto your own space within real size, in real time, and with real, surface reflections. Everything kind of looks like exactly it would do in real life. And then it's an incredibly useful tool, of course, for the company, not only from a communication perspective, but also, their dealers are using it because they're able to place their products and everything. So these tools are becoming readily available. And this is just, the first year of us starting to do that. So if you think about where this is going to go, I mean, we stick with AR like for a minute, and then again, it's an information layer augmented onto reality. But then take the algorithms away and put artificial intelligence onto it, which is, of course, the word now on everybody's mind. And then what we think is the next thing that's going to happen in relation to that is what we call computer vision. And again, basically what this is going to do is our phones are going to be able to start, and all our devices are going to be able to start identifying this connecting dots over the physical map, over the virtual map, the mirror world, right? So you can basically, is that playing? Yeah. So you can basically start looking at everything you have and then get the information of that. And obviously, the applications of this are immense. This already exists. It's a thing called the Bixby, which is on the new Samsung phones. It's an artificial AI system that they have that basically has this ability, and people are using it, to track products, to see the colors in the products, to do all kinds of things. And this is kind of becoming a standard. You think this is an incredible thing. I mean, think a bit about again, and maybe I'm a little old and I'm still like incredibly impressed by this new world, but this is kind of a standardized thing on today's technologies, right? And again, if we take a step back and look a little bit at where we are today, I mean, these are things that we've actually built. On the left, you have kind of a small, game that we try to do to see how we can play around with the phone's ability to read your face. And I mean, this is an artificial intelligence, simple version of something in a way. And then on the right, you have a new format that Apple has released, a new file format that is called the USDZ, which basically allows you to take any 3D object and then use it in an augmented reality way, present it onto the physical world without the need for an app. And again, this is something that already exists. So within a few years, I think, within a very short time, actually, all websites will eventually replace their existing imagery, their JPEGs and PNGs, and just basically replace them with 3D models. And then you will have that way the ability to actually have augmented reality, three-dimensional representations within the physical world of every website that you visit. So again, the applications of that can be immense. And then we move a little bit into VR because I talk about AR a little bit too much. And then, in the way that we talk about it in OutHere, and I think the way that everybody kind of talks about it, is you split it into two things. You have the 360 video, and then you have the real-time interactive VR. And they're a little bit similar, but at the same time, they have, of course, you know, big differences between them. For the record, we're not really big fans of the 360 video. We think, you know, that the future and the whole magic happens when you actually have the ability to create these three-dimensional worlds and interact with them. But you go back into both of them relate to the whole idea of placeness that I talk about. You're actually stepping inside a representation of the physical world, whether it's on film or whether it's in 3D. And you do it by starting, you know, you go inside and you go, it's a one-to-one scale VR. Of course, you can create a world or a game or something that everything is very big or very small, but generally, when we think about it, we talk about a one-to-one scale. So you're basically stepping inside a virtual reality. This is what the whole thing is about. And if we look at films first, to begin with, then, I mean, this is a project I actually love. Of course, unfortunately, we haven't worked on it, but the UN actually used VR last year to lobby for changing regulations and laws around Europe relating to immigration. So it's an incredibly important subject. It's one of the most important subjects politically in our world today. And now VR is used to actually create arguments that change laws. And it worked. It actually really worked. If you find that project and you read about it, it was an insane success in getting people to understand what the situation of that was. And the way that they did that is because VR has this ability to create empathy. They call it the empathy machine in many ways. And that's because you don't have a sense that you've seen something. You have a sense that you've been and you've done something when you're in VR. So what they did is they actually took you and placed you inside the refugee camps. And if you have that kind of experience, this is not something you see on TV. Now you're inside. You listen to it, you live it, you see it. And again, we're still talking about 360 video. We're not even talking about real-time interactive VR. So, you know, you exist within the scale, you step within that mirror world. And then in 360 video, it's a lot easier. You're actually telling a story as well, so you're building a narrative. And I mean, you know, this is the first thing humans did. Stories generate feelings. This is how we communicate with each other. This is how we tell who we are and what we care about and what our world is all about. So this is kind of what VR, for the first time, we have a technology that actually allows us to feel empathy and to feel things and to tell stories in a different way. And like I said, you know, it changed the world in a way. The latest regulation of the European Union that was voted about 16 months ago related to the presentation that was done in VR. This was a really big project. But again, that's not so extraordinary. What really is amazing with VR is this.
So go ahead and face forward. Oh, you have a disembodied body there. So, all right. So we're just going to have a nice little swing. Anyway, that's very much the power and excitement of VR. As you could see, not necessarily the best looking trees. They couldn't cast shadows just because it takes up too much processing power. Kind of decent mountains, but you're very much transported to the place, and it very much does feel like you're in this world.
And, oh, sorry, I have to stop that for a minute. So even though you know where you are, even though you know what your actual experience is, your body feels things differently, and your mind is continuously tricked into those experiences that you have with VR. And this actually works. It really can change the way that we interact and you know, feel things about. And this is what I mean with the mirror world. You're now stepping into something that doesn't exist. You know it's not there, and yet your whole body, both in terms of physical relationships and emotion, actually feels this way. The next project I'm going to show is we worked together with Skanska, the construction company, and then their idea was, you know, how do we change safety training? I mean, this is an industry that actually has serious accidents and even deaths, and it's extremely important for them to build things, to find a way to make sure that you know, they have less and less accidents, and of course avoid the whole issue of having people killed within construction sites. So we devised this idea that we built a VR world that is an exact replica of a real construction site. And then we actually created scenarios that are happening in real life. So you step into this VR world and you do exactly the same things as you would do if you were actually working on that site. And we give you multiple ways to do it. I can have this play in the background, I think. Yeah. And then while you do these kind of tasks, things happen to you. We give you multiple ways to create, to go through the tasks, and of course, only one way is the right and the safe way. The rest of the ways, if you take any other route, you will actually either get seriously hurt or die. Of course, you won't in real life because you're in a VR experience. But it will actually generate memories. It will create this kind of feeling that you've been there and you've been through an accident, and then the idea is what we're experiencing, what we're exploring now is whether when this happens in real life, whether your mind tells you that this is something you've already gone through and you'll remember it, right? I actually have a small video. And again, we work together with behavioral psychologists and we work together with people that are actually in the construction sites, and then we explored how we can make people change their behavior.
Byggena är ju en rörlig arbetsplats, så där måste vi tänka mycket mer extra på säkerhet. Det säger det blir nya risker ganska ofta. Så vi måste nog vara mer med i matchen för att våra mål.
För att förstå att ett beteende kan vara ett problem behöver man ju själv då uppleva att det jag gör kan vara bra statistik, och det finns ju också en mängd, men det kommer ju inte i sig att leda till att du minskar ditt riskbeteende. Det är där vi kan hjälpa till genom VR att simulera de här riskerna. Så att man blir medveten om dem, för då kommer de helt enkelt sitta på ett annat sätt.
Virtual reality är ju ett medium som skapar känsla hos användaren. Siffrorna är så pass starka att det leder till en beteendeförändring.
Får vi det 3D och man får uppleva vissa saker, så tror jag att det ger ett mer eftertryck när vi försöker påvisa viktiga saker inom säkerhet. Det är väl det bästa sättet just nu i alla fall som vi har, att utsätta dem för en fara utan att de faktiskt är i fara. Och då är ju VR ett bra alternativ, för då kan vi göra den här och skapa den här aha-upplevelsen i kontrollerad form.
Vi och Skanska har ju ett nära samarbete i det här projektet där de bidrar med sin kunskap inom beteendeförändring och byggbranschen. Och vi bidrar med VR och ett kreativt perspektiv på det hela. Och när man slår ihop de här så kan man faktiskt skapa magi i en säkerhetsträning, och det tror man inte riktigt, men det går.
Det är väl det som jag personligen brinner för i det här projektet. En möjlighet att faktiskt ta bort alla sådana risker. Det ska inte kunna hända på grund av jobbet. Du ska komma hem skadefri varje dag.
Vad kan vi göra för att det här inte ska hända igen?
Okay, so sorry, I actually thought there were subtitles in that film. But again, we're going back into this idea of, that we're building these mirror worlds, these virtual worlds, and we're actually having the ability within VR to step inside. So again, looking at the two technologies, you have one which basically creates information about everything within our physical world, and then at the same time you have VR which creates kind of a fake mirror world that you can actually step in and interact with. But the real question now is, okay, so what am I going to do about it? How can I work with it? How does my company can benefit from it? And then the thing is, in order to do that, you need to stop thinking of XR, let's call everything XR, even though that's not exactly right, and think, okay, you have your company and you have your brand platform and your communication, and then XR today is kind of sitting a little bit around. It's satellites around everything else that you do. It's not a part of your digital communication. But in order to instigate change, you actually need to bring that into this equation. You need to make XR the same thing as you already know that you need to have a website or you need to have an email address. It needs to become a part of that equation. And the only way to do that is by taking baby steps. First, you need access to 3D data. You need to create as much 3D data. You need to have as much 3D data as you have of your products and your services or your worlds, whatever it is that your company is about. And then you also have, which is extremely important, an organization that actually accepts that kind of innovation as a cost driver, because it's still an expensive thing to do. It's still, we're still just taking the first steps. And I'm taking a leap of faith here, but I'm thinking, if you have your own digital ecosystem, then you're most probably working with an agency. You work with a communication agency, whether a specifically digital agency or an advertising agency or a little bit of both. And then, the digital ecosystems have matured in relation to the World Wide Web, which again, in the beginning, kind of XR today, or maybe a couple of years ago, was kind of a gimmick. Are we on the same slide? Yeah. And then, eventually that took value. It became a communication tool. It became a way to talk about our services, have internal communication. Of course, right now we do sales online, so now is the real value of it. And then, of course, the mobile comes, and it affects things immensely because now you can spread all that information out into your digital ecosystem. And if you think about the average ecosystem, this is a little bit, again, what it looks like, your social media and your digital channels and your communication and your data information and everything like that. But we're still at this point. And like I said, the only way to do that is to actually bring XR into this equation. And the thing with digital ecosystems and the way that we relate to our clients is we're very mature about them. I guess most of you are familiar with the whole idea of a path to purchase funnel. Basically, where do we connect with our customers? Where do we connect, how do we make people aware of our products? How do we make them buy our products and services? And how do we have loyalty with them? And again, the idea is that you take those baby steps. You actually find touch points across the path to purchase funnel and then see how you can bring XR into this. As a perfect example, this is exactly what Bang & Olufsen has done. They have been exploring with us for nearly a year now to see, okay, what products we have, what kind of models we can create, what kind of services we can create. It all starts kind of simply, but now they're at a point where they can create AR apps and they can enhance their websites and they can bring USDZ technology into it. A similar thing, it's Volvo Cars did the same in a way. I mean, we've been working, a lot of companies here in Gothenburg have been working with Volvo Cars on different mixed reality experiences and, explorations, and they've played around with everything that kind of exists. This is a project that we've collaborated with others and with Volvo on, which is basically their flagship stores in Tokyo, in Milan, and in Stockholm. And the idea here is that they have a small space, and they don't have the ability, the physical world of the space itself doesn't allow them to bring cars in. So they use VR to bring more products into the equation and then to tell the stories of the products. So it's a platform idea. And Volvo has started, it was one of the first companies that actually started experimenting with VR that I know of. And we worked with them, of course, in numerous occasions. And now they're at a point where they actually have a platform that they can take advantage of and create real value within this equation. So are we okay with time, or? Yeah, I'm talking and talking. So, yeah, cool. So again, I mean, my personal history and experience is I've worked in advertising and I've worked with digital agencies. And, again, what I'm looking at now is I'm looking at all these new technologies and I'm thinking, what do we know from before that we can actually utilize and use and take advantage of this new technology? How do we create this connection touch points to basically generate value? So I'll take a step back again and remember something that we did that I thought was really cool at the time. So when I worked in a digital agency, and then basically, all of a sudden, we started knowing things about you. We read your social media channels and your website visits and your mobile phone, and you know all of that stuff. We kind of know everything about you today, right? From your digital behaviors. We know what you're reading and what you have and what you buy and where you go and where you travel and what your favorite color is and everything. So when it came time to build a new website for volvocars.com, then we actually looked at all this information. And the thing is, we looked at it within seconds. So the second you visited volvocars.com, we knew all of that stuff about you. We instantaneously got the information about it that you wanted. So then what we did is we kind of filtered it all, and then we throw it back into the site by basically bringing information onto the site that is all about you. So what that resulted in is in a website that is basically your website. So the color of the car, the environment of the car, the information around the car related to who you are. We knew if you liked it fast, or if you liked it red, or if you lived in the country, or if you had a family, and basically everything altered. And what I'm talking about now is how do we use all that data, how do we use all that knowledge to actually bring it onto AR and VR? How can you utilize these new technologies in order to tell similar stories? Because our digital ecosystems are incredibly mature and incredibly valuable. They actually generate immense value today for us. So how are we going to do this? One example, one idea that we're working with and looking at is the new virtual dealerships. And again, I'm taking a leap that most of you know a little bit about. The idea of a dealership in general is that it's a dead industry. People don't really go outside of towns anymore to visit these big centers. I mean, of course, some people do, but generally it's kind of dying out. So the companies, the industry, and I'm only using the car industry as an example here. A lot of other industries are going through similar things. People don't visit stores, don't go downtown to shop anymore, don't like to go on mall, people buy online. These are parts of the same story, right? So how do we create new touch points with our customers? How do we sell differently? And then again, I think XR comes and plays a really important part here because, of course, from one point you have your online, your desktop and your mobile site and your e.com platforms, but then you also have the dealerships, and then you also have a point in the very near future where XR is coming to our homes. We will have augmented reality and we will have virtual reality in our homes, which actually means that you can take, since we're talking about cars or trucks or TVs or whatever you want, you can actually take that product and place it inside of your living room. You can customize it, you can play with it, you can change the colors, you can step inside, you can listen to it, you can customize it. Eventually, you should also actually be able to sell it. XR is immensely valuable for trade shows. It solves so many problems if you're dealing with trade shows because you can actually take people inside and take them to the products and build worlds around them. Last year we worked in, and now it's a public project, so I can talk about it. Volvo Cars worked on a new future autonomous vehicle called the 360C that they have an idea about. It's a car for maybe 10, 15 years in the future. But they wanted to communicate, this vision of the future around Volvo Cars, and then we worked together with them and, of course, a lot of other agencies and companies to actually build a collective story around that. So we had interactive experiences. You could step into the car and see what that feels like and maybe take a virtual trip in it. And we also created some films to actually show how that service is going to work. And this is just one of the components of that whole equation. I have to give credit, this was done by a lot of people, including OutHere, and of course Volvo's internal departments as well. So the idea is that you don't own these cars. You actually have a subscription and you call them anywhere you are. So it's a whole new model, it's a whole new world. So how do you tell people how this is going to work? And this XR actually solved so many of our communication problems. This was, by the way, a 360 VR film that you were able to see during the trade show, during the exhibition and the car presentation. I'm gonna play forward, and I mean the last thing I'll say to that is this is the format we're all used to, seeing a film promoting something. But when you actually look at this in VR and you're stepping inside that world and you look around, you have a completely different feeling and understanding of what this is. So to try to finish within the time limit, what you should be looking is you need to understand how you can design for XR, right? Most of you know, whether you have your own website or whether you work with an agency to design a website, you kind of know how to design a website. You know what you want on it, you know people's behaviors around it, you know what your company needs to communicate. You need to understand the same thing about here. What's the story you're trying to tell, right? This is kind of the first step. And then you need to have a really good understanding of how people are going to experience XR, whether it's in a mobile phone and within the physical world, or whether you have them at home or a trade show or your dealership, and you take them inside a VR world. Then you also need to be very, very clear and pay a lot of attention into how people actually experience things, because this is kind of the only thing that will instigate success. And success around XR is still kind of a difficult thing. You know, again, with digital ecosystems, we know how to measure. We measure visits, we measure sales, we have data. With XR, we don't yet have that. But the only way that I can tell that we're going to get there is, first of all, we build better and better experiences, which I already see. I mean, like I said in the beginning, there was so much hype and so little value into the things people experience, so much bad VR that made people nauseous and was uninteresting and everything. Now we're actually seeing incredible things coming out for all kinds of purposes: training, entertainment, information, all kinds of stuff. And then, of course, when you build better experiences, then you have more people buying into XR, which is kind of the desired thing. You know, XR will become a part of the everyday language of our lives, which is kind of where this is going to become a part of an integral part of our digital ecosystems. So last thing I take again, you know, let's start from the beginning. We kind of all know we've been through the Industrial Revolution. That's kind of an old story now. And now we're still kind of stepping outside of the information revolution. And then what people are saying, or maybe the information age, if you want to call it that. And now we're moving into the knowledge age. And we're already kind of there for me. What I think we're doing is we're actually going into a wisdom age. This is where we know we have our map, we have our mirror world, we have a layer of information that relates around everything, all our physical world, and also we have the ability to create 3D visual presentations of imaginary worlds or representations of the physical world to actually step into. And the key to that is basically XR, is mixed reality technology. This is kind of what is the core idea behind the mirror world. And that's all I had to say. Thanks.